Hi everyone. We're going to make a lean-to. Now there's all different types of lean-tos out there. You have your natural, you have ones that we're going to be doing with a tarp. There's all different ways of tying your knots, so on, so on. I basically will be using just a prusik knot, a figure-8 knot, and a couple other knots that I don't exactly know their names or the name of the knots offhand, just for the simple fact of I don't really waste my time of knowing names of specific things. As long as you know how to do it, that's the most important thing. This way you can use your brain power, your knowledge for other things that may come in more handier instead of a name. So with all that said, let's get going. Let's go make this lean-to, and hopefully you'll get something out of it and you'll be able to get out there and practice with bushcrafting and all of your survival skills. With any kind of tarp shelter, you're gonna need a ridgeline. That's pretty much a given. And what I'll do is I'll have a paracord like so with a figure-8 knot tied into it. This way, when I run this around my tree, I can just run all the cordage through, which you'll see here in a second. I don't use bank line for my ridge lines because I find that the paracord, even if it does stretch, it's much easier to keep the shelter up and a lot easier to take it down. Now for me to put up my ridge line, I usually have my tree space out approximately about 2 to 4 feet longer than my shelter. Obviously sometimes the trees are going to be spaced out more. So I'm going to go with that tree right there to that tree right there, which is probably about 15 feet, and I'm using a 10 by 10 tarp, so I'm going to have a good 2 feet difference on each side. Now with my figure-8 knot and my ridge line, for my start of my ridge line, I usually go roughly about chest high, between the chest and the shoulders. All you have to do is just wrap this around and you take your line right through the figure-8 knot that you already have, and you just run it right on through. It's real simple to do, it's real quick to put up and real quick to take down. It's probably one of the longest processes. And when you have it up, like so, you're about chest high, have your figure-8 knot kind of in the side of the tree. Now as you can see with your paracord, with your figure-8 knot, it's kind of on the side of the tree. We're going to run it that way. So you would cinch down, as you can see, we're over to the other tree, and you're going to want to snug it or tighten it down a little, so like so. Now since you have it cinched down, you're going to take your paracord or whatever cordage you're using and run it over the top like so. When you have it like that, then you're going to run it back towards you, cinch it down around the tree, wrap it back around, get your extra cordage, run it over your ridge line again, cinch it back, and come back around like so. Cinch it down real tight. I usually do this 2 times. You can do it 3 times, you can do it 4 times, but I do it 2 times. And then I'm gonna come and wrap around the tree once, like so. Now all we're gonna do is we're gonna make a basic prusik knot. So you've got your cordage, grab it, pinch it, so almost like you have a little loop and you wrap it around your ridge line 3 times. Keep it nice and neat, like so. Zoom in here for you. And then the cordage that you have on the ground, or your leftover cordage, you run it through. Like so. And you cinch down. Keep it nice and neat. Like so. And then you just run it down the ridge line to make it nice and tight. If you have to, you can pull on the ridge line towards you and just run it down. By friction, you're going to have a prusik knot. Now, all you do with your leftover cordage is you grab the bottom of it like so, wound it around your hand, hanking it up like so. Doesn't have to be too pretty, just make one loop like so, just to hold it tight. Actually, you would probably want to go with 2, and you just let it hang. Now this is a Bushcraft USA tarp. It's a 10 by 10. You can use a smaller tarp. I prefer to have my tarps with grommets in the middle. See, there's grommets that will run across the center of the tarp, and then this here has grommets all along the end of it, all the way on all 4 sides. I'll use some stakes. I won't be using that many. I just grabbed them out of my pack and threw them on the tarp for you people. And then I'll use tarred bank line number 36. I'll use that for tying off to my stakes and for my prusik knots when we put up the tarp. All I'm going to do is take my tarp. I'm going to have those center grommets going along the ridge line. And you just kind of throw it over it for right now. Like so. Now as you can see, once you put the weight down on the ridge line is going to kind of drop a little bit. That's why you have that prusik knot. Prusik knot will help you adjust the tarp. So you just run it over all the way to your second grommet. Here's that corner one, and then you're at your number 2. Run it all the way down roughly to that area there. Just straighten it out. With the bank line, I'll have a couple pieces, and this is to make the prusik knots, so this way we can tighten down the tarp. They're roughly around 2 feet. They're a little bit long, but I actually prefer longer cordage, making prusik knots instead of futzing around while we make them. We're going to be doing exactly the same thing we did with the ridge line when we wrapped around the tree, when we cinched it down, we made that prusik knot. We're going to do exactly the same thing, just with a little variation, of course, because now we're going to be tying a tarp to it. So basically, I'm going to take the cordage and I'm going to split it right down in the middle and kind of fold it over. And then I'm going to do exactly like what I did before. I'm just going to run this over 3 times. But this time I'm going to take both of the lines and run it through. Get this nice and neat as possible. And then cinch it all down once you get it nice and neat, like so. Since now we have a prusik knot, this is one of the reasons why I like using longer strands. I could have probably went longer. We're going to tie these together. So basically you I usually just go just with a simple knot, like so. Make sure it's nice and tight. And now we have a nice little loop. You can use all different kind of knots of doing this. You just don't want any kind of slip knot. Now what I'll do is I'll grab a stick as for a toggle, and I'll run it through my second hole, and then I'll bring down my prusik knot or the tarp, whatever, and then I'll just kind of wrap it around on both sides like that. So this way, when you cinch it down, you won't tear apart your tarp. This helps take off pressure. I'm going to do the other side exactly the same way as I did this side, and then I'm going to adjust it and snug everything up so it won't be so loose. One thing that's nice about the prusik knot, it works by friction. Once it's tight, it won't go anywhere, but it's easy to maneuver. Now since I have both sides set up, I adjust it, I take my prusik knot and pull it away from the tarp. Like I said, it's going to hold it together by friction. And I did the same thing already on that side. Now it's nice and tight. Also, if you want, you can tighten down your ridgeline too. This is probably a good time to do it. Take your prusik knot, see if you can get it as tight as possible. Yank on it, which this is pretty tight. I'm pretty satisfied with this. Has a little bounce to it, but once we have everything all staked down, we're all ready to set up camp. Now since we're in the back of the tarp, I came up 2 spots. I got my corner and then my second grommet. And I just ran my stake right through the grommet, and I'm just going to stake it down. You're going to make it nice and snug, but you don't want it too snug because you're going to make final adjustments at the end. I did that corner and I did that corner. I don't have my stakes all pounded down yet, just for the simple fact of we're going to have to run our ridge or our guidelines from the corner out yet. And I like to make my final adjustments at the very end. I'm going to run my guidelines out, and what I'm going to do here is I usually have this already pre-tied and I keep it in my shelter kit, but I'll take a nice long piece of bank line. To be honest with you, I don't know quite the size. It's probably around 10 feet or so, maybe even smaller. And once again, I'll tie this all back together like so. You know, make your knot on one side, and then on the other side you would do the same thing. Just basically wrap it over. All you're doing is making a knot like so, and you cinch it together like so. Once again, I'm going to use a toggle. I'm going to run my toggle through the grommet, and I'm going to take my cord, that's my bank line that's tied together, secure it like so, and I'm going to run it out and stake it down. So as you can see, that's all staked down over here. I'm just going to go back here and adjust my stakes. So this way I'll have, this would be nice and snug, and it's going to come more down at an angle. That's why I always wait for the very end to really pound in my stakes down here. And here's the lean-to. It pretty much takes 15 minutes to set up. That also includes not having like how I had my ridge lines or my guidelines already pre-tied. Obviously it's less when you have something like that in your shelter kit. Regarding the back here, if you want to stop the draft, so all you have to do is throw branches on there with some leaves to keep the draft out from coming that way. If you can always lower your ridge line and adjust everything so this way the shelter is even closer to the ground, and mostly when it's colder out, so this way your body heat will kind of stay within inside the shelter as much as possible. And like always, if you're going to have a fire, make sure that the wind's going this way, not this way, because when the smoke gets built up in there, it's pretty uncomfortable. Right now the wind's blowing this way, but I'm not having a fire out here because I'm not allowed to. This is pretty much public lands, and I just come out here to make a quick video. You can also put insulation at the bottom, which I recommend mostly when it's cold or even when it's, you know, mild temperatures. Basically, you take your leaves and you pile it all up where it's really nice and thick, so this way the earth won't take your body heat away from you. I always use a GI poncho for a ground tarp too. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for watching this video, and I hope that you got something from it. There's all different variations that you can do with this shelter, as you know, regarding with insulation, with your pitch, the size of it. I mean, there's just so many different variations with this, and for me to make a video regarding that, it would be pretty well a lengthy video and really time consuming on both of our parts. This here is more of my way of having you go and start off with this, try this out, and then you can start doing your own little things with the shelter and experiment and find out what works best for you. So with that all said, I want to thank everyone for watching once again. I wanted to remind you to get out there and get some dirt time in, and please comment, share, subscribe, and support this channel. Don't forget to get some dirt time in.